Dear students, we discussed this in the class also, and it was also part of the discussion the other day. And also, this is also the essence of our uh, assignment. As I mentioned in the class, uh, this assignment pretty much sums up the objectives of our course, because the things that we studied before are more of a backgrounders, uh, which are good for historical reference and also understanding the system. But these don't explain the current phenomenon, like the way media is operating right now. Uh, like it's good to have an understanding of how the media begins, what is mass media, how does it work, radio and television, laws, and the political system, and how it emerged out of the colonial past, and all these things that we discussed in detail are good. But right now and here, I am basing my talk today on one recent conference articles, uh, which is titled "An Open Discourse: A Media Theory for the 21st Century." So what is it basically? The basic theme is that the rise of social media and its importance in our lives has created a new phenomenon in political communication. Because earlier we used to concentrate on political communication, which in turn helps democracy or otherwise, on the basis of media and government relations. Like when we said media, it meant mainstream media. And we thought, rightly so, before the internet, that the relationship between media and mainstream media, like radio, television, that we call electronic media, and print as newspapers or other similar weeklies and monthlies with reviews and news and everything. The relationship between them basically creates a culture which is democracy, in which we understand how does government work with the media, how much influential is media in giving rise to aspirations of the people in a society, and also how does it present those needs and aspirations to the government, which while implementing laws and regulations takes into consideration all these wishes of the people. Uh, and that's what we consider. If a government uh, considers media's input uh, in decision-making processes, which is taken as public opinion, then we say it has a horizontal model of communication where people can directly access through the mainstream media the government and could participate in the system of governance. Whereas where media advice or people's aspirations are not heeded to, is considered to be a vertical system of communication where government relies on its own structure of control, where from the lowest tier to the highest, information is gate kept and changed. So if somebody is asking, if some community somewhere is asking for a road, at the end of the chain, the government might decide to build a beltway around the city. And this has happened a lot in Pakistan and many other countries. But this is the new world where people have direct access to governance, to politics. So everybody is just involved. And few of the greatest things that have happened because of that is that it has emancipated us, it has liberated us. We can give our opinions, and we have that space within which we can interact with governments. We can hold politicians responsible. Not that easy, but still, uh, we can say whatever we wish. We can just tweet. We can give our opinion. We don't need to wait in lines when we want to publish an article. Even intelligent people used to have we used to wait for some newspaper to heed to their written article and print it. And it still happens, like for the sake of mm, fame, people would like to get published in Dawn or this or that, and Dawn will say, no, we don't have time. So you will be writing about some recent issue and want to publish it, get it published in Dawn, and Dawn will say, okay, we'll do it 2 months after that. And between that, much would have passed. But if you are intelligent enough and quick enough, you just go to your YouTube channel, which is directly and freely available through your Gmail account, if not anything else, and you give your opinion. You can, if you are tech savvy, you can show your face, you can give additional documents, and you can make a video of as long as you wish. And here it is. Everything is just there. You can present fact, you can be a YouTuber, you can like a blog, you can like a blog, you can write a blog, you can tweet, you can just have Facebook statuses, Instagram, wherever. So you are the publisher. That's the good thing about it. But there is a problem. That digital technology, which is basically the engine of social media, has created what we call an echo chamber phenomenon. Like-minded people just close themselves into that echo chamber and deal in prejudices. So they don't listen to anybody else. And the world is governed by those many echo chambers. So freedom of thought and expression is somehow a victim of that. So on the one hand, this huge liberalization drive that came with the rise of social media, and we think, and rightly so, there is still hope that now we can hold power responsible. But at the same time, there are so many power centers based on individual and group biases, where the truth is the biggest fatality. Now, what happens is that in our modern world, as you can see, if you go to Twitter in Pakistan or Facebook, especially to Twitter or any other platform, you'll see that holding power accountable, like holding politicians accountable for their actions, has become increasingly difficult, because they have those huge followings, and there is this echo chamber within which they communicate with their followers. And most of the political parties are becoming cults. Like they would like to have a person who will speak the way he or she wishes. When I am saying that, just think about 4, 5, 6 forerunners in Pakistani politics, and just for a moment consider them, their speeches, and look for common sense in that. You won't find it anywhere, because the herd mentality is at play. Because when you are too prejudiced, you don't need rational argument. You become aggressive and radical, and there you just need a figure to follow, like you need a cult. And that's what's happening. And it's not simply Pakistan; it's a global phenomenon. So what we call like democracy is one important system in the world, which is based on consensual politics. Like consensual politics doesn't mean that each and everybody agrees, but people argue with each other and then reach a compromise. So the compromise is no more possible, because if you are operating from within echo chambers, you are there not to listen, but just to add to public conservatism. Like everybody is the conservative. Like everybody is full of exhortations about everybody's right to speak. But when we say that, it's our right to speak and nobody else's. And when a large number of people, like, for example, if I may say, the president tweets about the imported government namanzoor, this hashtag had reached an enormous number, and almost 20 million or 2 billion. Imagine that number. Imagine just go for 12 million that attended Imran Khan's Facebook Live the other day. And all these people are his followers. So if you wish to argue with them, they won't listen. It's not about good or bad, but it's about just this echo chamber. And similar echo chambers exist in, for example, if I may use the names of political parties in Pakistan, like uh, Muslim League Nawaz, and Pakistan People's Party, Jamiat Ulama Islam, whatever. These are the big parties. JUI is famous for its street power. Jamaat Islami recently remained quiet, but they are not more on social media. They are more on the streets, which is nowhere, which is not in vogue right now. But the point here is that that instead of having more stronger consensual politics in place around the globe, uh, we are having conservative, like political conservatism uh, at at the global level. But the problem with it is that what we call the plurality of perspective, like many perspectives on one thing, that just dies down. It's not possible to have plurality of perspective if each and every one is fully sure that whatever they are saying is right and the rest are just saying nonsense. So there is no place for dialogue. If there is no place for dialogue, uh, then you can't have a debate, then you can't have a sustainable democracy. Uh, and one, what happens is basically that uh, journalism is directly affected because news become unreliable, because people are not looking for news. People are looking for certain information uh, to strengthen their biases. And it's a big problem. So somebody has just said, okay, then we have to revisit the normative theories of the press. These are four. If you have studied mass communication theory, you will know it, but I'll just simply narrate those. It's authoritarian, where a king or a monarch has the right to allow anybody to speak or to write or to have a press, and if not, if they don't allow it, then you won't be able to do that. And then there is the same political classification was Soviet totalitarian theory. The Soviet Union is no more, but the meaning is that it's a one-party rule where one party decides who will speak and who won't, and what is the nature of conversation, and everything is decided by them. And then we have the libertarian model on John Stuart Mill and John Locke's ideas, and also backed by the ideas of Rousseau of freedom and emancipation, that everybody has the right to, if you have anything to say, you have the right to say. An idea that was challenged because it was problematic. And then we got another theory, which we know as social responsibility theory, that you have the right to say things that are not disruptive for society and also are not disrespectful towards the other. And based on those ideas, all the laws of the press and ethical concepts in media and also for social media are basically devised keeping in mind our social responsibility. And so that's what we had. But where we are heading right now is something that was earlier discussed by a German philosopher, Jürgen Habermas. Habermas is considered to be the only living philosopher right now. And I still remember that when I was using symbolic interactionism, where Habermas had contributed, the overall idea was that Habermas' ideas are not fit for mass communication. But we have reached there. I have used it, by the way, in 2001 and 2. At that time, these were considered to be taboo because Habermas was considered to be a contributor to communication, but group communication. But here we are, where Habermas is the father of the idea of the public sphere. Like Habermas always says that to ensure a democracy, you have to sanctify the public sphere. that people have the right to gather together and talk about something. And you have to ensure that they have the right to do that. And we have reached, thanks to the social media, that Habermas' bourgeois public sphere is now being accepted as one model to understand the modern rise of social media and technology. And it's also an idea that, since Habermas never defined whether a public sphere is public being somewhere, but rather he had the idea that the public's right to develop a discourse irrespective of where they are is very much befitting for modern times. But the problem is that what are the rules that will define the sanity of the public sphere? Because it's an era of clickbaits and likes and dislikes, comments, generating more and more controversy, which would basically bring in more discussion and debate. So the mass of the debate, the clicks and the numbers, and also generating eyeballs, as we use that people certainly are startled and they say, okay, we have to respond to this. This is what we call the classic dilemma of speaking truth and following the following. And so this is what we can see is a challenge, that you can ensure the sanctity of the public sphere, but you don't know whether that public sphere will add to the truth, or would it in any means matter for a functioning of a democracy or a society. And that's basically when we look at this whole phenomenon, we look for an open discourse theory. And open discourse theory means, since most of the media is not making sense, like there is no monopoly of truth. Like we have a lot of facts, but we don't know which of these are true. And so we say, okay, let's don't be decisive. Let's think about giving facts. Let's going back to the earlier roles that we had of ensuring information, and let's not go too deep into educating and guiding people. Even entertainment has become a difficult business. So since social media is something that brings people together, and it also adds to their spirit of radical confrontation. So you can't really teach them anything, because they think that they are the custodians of truth. So it's not possible to lecture people on media. So you can't. So you have to really change the model. And when you see that, if I may talk about the present day media professionals and media pundits' frustration with the people's stupidity. They think that people are stupid because they are trying to tell them all the truth, but people are not understanding, and then they name them, like, I won't name them, but followers of two big political parties are named derisively by journalists who think that they have the monopoly of truth. So if one political party, for example, Imran Khan's followers don't follow the truth that a certain journalist has, which is not in favor of their leader, so he will name them somehow and say, people are stupid, they don't understand. Whereas if you are on the other side of the divide, you will give use similar name callings about about Muslim League Noon followers. But why is it happening? Because our job is not to mold public opinion. That happens in a process. But somehow at the beginning of Pakistan, we thought, and rightly so, journalists at that time thought that they were the fourth state, and they were the ones who had the right to speak truth to power, and they were the ones who are representative of people who are illiterate mostly, who are backward, who are downtrodden. So it's their right and duty to represent these people, not simply by giving them information, but also by educating them, by guiding them, by deciding what is entertainment for them. But the open discourse theory is based on the idea that all that is not possible. The reason it's not possible is that these people are publishers and broadcasters in their own rights. And since they have more autonomy and authority when they interact with each other, they don't like media's roles as a guide or educator or decider of taste. They don't like it. If you want to do that, you will fail. And that's why, although journalism is giving a lot of money to different individuals or groups, but the identity and respect for journalism is receding. And it's not simply Pakistan, but everywhere in the world, it's not that much important anymore. But the biggest question is that whether it's possible to run a democracy where there is no mainstream media. The question till date is, the answer to this question is no, it's not possible. Like it's not possible that you can run a society, a democratic society, where there is no mainstream media. So it's a time where mainstream media has to look for its own survival. One of the most important aspects is to understand, for the journalists to understand what digitalization really means. What powers has social media given to individuals which were supposed to be our followers? And what are the aspects which are untenable and like these are not workable anymore? And once we understand that, we would be able to understand what our new role is. Like, it's really important to understand that judgments are not accepted because people make judgments themselves. Now, that's a separate problem. Like, dealing with that is a separate issue. But journalists, when they confront public opinion, which is there on social media, they don't form or fashion public opinion. It's being formed somewhere else. And they have to, their job is not to follow it, but to understand it and to see how to present truth. Right now, what we are looking at is that that we have to ensure that there is the provision of what we call common conversation available for people, that we give them information which give them a basis for common conversation. And out of that conversation, they make decisions. And those decisions shouldn't be accepted, but they should be respected because these are public opinion statements. And then if we want to confront those decisions that people make about individuals, social processes, we have to present more facts instead of saying that this is a stupid argument because certain number of individuals who, according to our standards, are not journalists, are giving that opinion, but rather to give more facts which might contradict that opinion. So it's a society, it's a new system. The open discourse theory says that your job as a journalist is to go back to the role of an informer and inform people, to look for facts, not for truths. Truth is something which is obvious and final. So since all of these people who are living in their own echo chambers, they have their own truth. So if you want to confront them with your truth, you are going to lose it. And it's also important that you follow community-based discourse patterns and understand those. So the roles are being reversed here. In an open discourse theory, media is part of the discourse. In an open discourse, like it's like kind of a potluck where you are not the host, but you bring your own tiffin with you and you put it there. And I say, here it is. This is my news channel. This is my newspaper. And I put my set of information in this debate, open, not in an echo chamber. So at the same time, on the one hand, you are giving facts about certain happenings, and also avoiding any judgment. And on the other hand, you are putting some information which are not part of any echo chamber. Once you decide to get into an echo chamber and to be party to a conflict, you will lose credibility because the world is full of echo chambers. So if one of the biggest responsibilities is to change the perception from leaders and guides and educators to informers and say that, okay, we collect facts, we present them. If you get a result out of your echo chamber mentality and you say, okay, this is the truth because I believe in it, I won't confront you, but I'll just put some more facts in the open where you might reconsider. And that's a different role. That's a different role that especially elite journalists are not ready to accept. And that's why media gets into trouble with individuals, with groups, like everybody is starting to dislike mainstream media. For the sake of the survival of mainstream media, unless and until we really understand the new phenomenon, we have to really stick to facts, to the basic tenets of journalism. And this will, here are certain sets of principles that would be useful, that we should reconsider while we are moving forward. I'll discuss these in the next lecture. I don't want to confuse it too much. So the questions that we need to have, that our role in a functioning democracy, first we have to understand how this democracy is working right now. The first question is that what are the social preconditions for a well-functioning system of democratic deliberation? Like, we have to really know that. Like, what we know about how people think democratically is in the past. And we have huge societies. Like if Scandinavia is in a position, if you say Sweden is in a position to understand, like imagine it's 5 million people, but here you have 220 or 250 million people. So we really have to really delve deep and understand that democratic deliberation, how is it happening? We didn't have it very well even earlier. Our urban middle class used to deliberate and the rest of the world country used to follow. So we have to really, this is the first question. And then might serendipity in exposure to news and opinion be important, even if people do not want it? Like opinion and news, is it possible that both of these give a similar picture? And that's very important, that news and views are somehow connected. Like these seem to be happening at the same time. And that's the task of journalists. People don't like it. People, most of the time when people argue, when they are entrenched in their echo chambers, they would reject serendipity. They'll say, okay, no, this opinion cannot be connected to these facts. Our job is to understand why is that happening. And that's a big question, that we don't know if in the future opinions will be not based on any facts at all, but rather the sayings of a political leader who will act more like a cult leader than a democratic leader. Like President Donald Trump in the US is a prime example of how this could happen to a country. We don't need to talk about people like Vladimir Putin, because Russia is a different structure, or even Pakistani leadership. But even if you look at the US, his view was the truth. And if you wish to connect it, that with real life information happening, people won't accept. They say, no, but he's saying it's true. So that serendipity is really important to survive. And the third question is, might a perfectly controlled communication universe, a personalized feed, be its own kind of dystopia? Like, that's the bigger question. It's happening now, but is it going to persist? That people just create their own information ecosystem. Like, I choose things and I expose myself to a certain kind of information, and I refuse to budge back from it because this is my world. Like, I have created it for myself, and then I find other people, and then I create an echo chamber, and we just if WhatsApp groups, for example, Facebook groups, Twitter groups, and then you go into the open and you take your swords out and you start combating everybody who disagrees with you, and you create a certain type of truth, which is a structure, which is the connected structure of actions, and you say, okay, this is how people should live their lives. So imagine from clickbaits into real life wars. It's just a step away. So this dystopia that is being created by each and everybody, is it going to persist? Can we do something against it? The fourth and last question then this discussion asks is, how might social media, the explosion of communications options, machine learning and artificial intelligence alter the capacity of citizens to govern themselves? Like, that's the bigger question. Like, you want to live in a world which is ruled by democracy, because through experience, humanity has come to a conclusion that no matter what name you give, you have to have an inclusive society where there is freedom of expression, where there is order, where there is a respect for other people, and where there is freedom of speech and expression. So if we are creating these platforms where AI and machine learning and all this information data, which is being interpreted with different small groups and then considered to be valuable enough as truth, would it be possible to maintain a democracy in the future? One big example is which is very important, since it has remained a subject of research too, is Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter. Like, Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter ostensibly looked for the same. They fought for the same purpose. But research has shown that Black Lives Matter was more focused on the problems that African Americans were facing in the US. All Lives Matter, although it came as a support group to Black Lives Matter, like the ostensible, on the surface plea was that we want to universalize this small movement into respecting everybody. But when researches were done, we have come to know that basically it was meant to damage Black Lives Matter, because it was mostly concerned with white supremacists and especially white police officers who were responsible for the brutality against the African American people. So they were basically giving place to that. And I'll just end it on the most recent tweet by Elon Musk, the new owner of Twitter, who says that yes, for the sake of democracy, all radical thought should be excluded. Right-wing extremism should not be allowed, but at the same time, left-wing also not. Now, both of these are very subjective. And here we are looking for a balance in an extreme world. It's really interesting. His tweets are interesting. Like, he's said that he'll just buy a Coca-Cola and reintroduce cocaine into it. It's a joke, but he might do it. Somebody has asked him to buy McDonald's too, and he said, I can't produce miracles. Like, like one step at a time. So you see, such an, I won't say such a non-serious guy. The guy is rich, but you see, the world is going into the hands of people who have a lot of money and very little thought processes. But let's hope for the best to happen. And I'll just try to explain uh, more about it in the next talk. Right now, I think it's good enough for today. And I'm just trying to find a way to end the recording. Thank you very much.